Hello, hello. Good afternoon. It's Stephanie Evelo, owner of the Evelo team, and I've got with me our beloved Bob Warner, our research specialist. And today we are going to talk about our monthly real estate market update. And so, Bob, take it away. What do you got
Okay.
for us today?
Yeah, let's just get right into things. First up is that median sales price. So we ended the month of March at 303,350. That was up just a tiny bit over March last year, where we ended right at 299.9. And then that next one we like to take a look at is the cumulative days on market. So again, that's the midpoint or the median between when a home goes on the market and when it goes under contract. So that was at 34 for the month of March. That was a jump of 13 days, percentage wise, pretty significant at almost 62%. We've been continuing to see that climb, and so that's not too surprising. Next is that month's supply of inventory. Again, historically speaking, a balanced market has been about a 4 to 5 month supply of inventory. We've been in that 2 month supply of inventory range. I think we even cracked 3 months for a little bit of time earlier this year in the winter, which isn't entirely unusual, but pretty close to where we were last March at 1.7. But again, percentage wise, that is up a little over 20%. And then the last one we like to take a look at in this initial batch is the percent of list price received. So on average, the homes in March sold at 95.5% of list price. Again, that was pretty flat compared to last year, where we were at 96.2 for the month of March. And again, just remember that's always very hyper local, right? So we still see some homes experiencing multiple offers and selling for over list price. And then the flip side of that is obviously on average, though, homes are selling for just around 95%. So that means some are selling under and some are selling for more than 5% under. So just sort of depends on the circumstances and where we're located.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So, what additional items have you been following to track with this shifting market conditions?
Yeah, just as things have started to change coming out of the pandemic the last couple of years, we started tracking a few more things each month when we do these. First up is that active inventory. So again, up almost 1,000 units over where we were in March of 25. So that's just right around 19%. We did have a spike in the winter here where we crossed 7,000 for the first time. So we've come down quite a bit from there, but still up over 1,000 units or near 1,000 units from where we were this time last year. That closed sales, we were almost flat again, another number pretty close to where we were. We ended at 2626, where last March we were at 2657, so down just about a percent there. Number of new listings, that was at 3791. We kind of have a trend here going, right? Overall relatively flat compared to last year, in my opinion. Again, I know percentage wise it's 2%, but we're within 100 units, so that's pretty remarkable to me when we see numbers like that. And then, as we alluded to earlier, when we look at that average list to sales price ratio, we always like to take a look at the percent of homes that still sold above list price. So we were at 14% this March, which was down a little bit over last year when we ended at when we had 17.2% of homes sold for over list price. So that'll give you some information there about when we say still some homes are selling for over list price. It's about 14% of the homes. So roughly 1.4 out of every 10 homes is selling for above list price still.
Wow. Yeah. And I think it's all relative, right, of where they start their price at. But yeah, that's pretty interesting because I think that people think that those days are gone, but they're actually, as a buyer, needing to know that there's still, the good homes priced right will sell quickly. So
Yep.
yeah, awesome. Well, speaking of buyers always ask, what are the interest rates? So how are the interest rates currently? What do they look like?
Yes. So for the end of last week, that average interest rate that we take a look at again, lots of variables that go into this, but this is the best way at least to kind of come up with a general average for the market overall, and that was at 6.37%. That is up a little bit from when we presented last month. That's up about 0.26%. We had stayed in the low sixes for the first few months of the year, and just as world geopolitical things are taking place. We have seen a little bit of a rise in interest rate. It hasn't been anything crazy, and we'll talk a little bit more here in a second about how that compares to where we were at this time last year, but definitely up, about a quarter of a point from where we were last month. But still overall down from where we were last year in particular, and then the year and two before that, even down further.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this. In any final thoughts about the market
Yeah,
currently?
so my final thought this month just kind of ties into the interest rate. So, I think there's been a lot of news about interest rates increasing, home affordability getting more out of reach. But if you sort of really look at the numbers, at least of where we've been the last couple of years, it paints a little bit of a different picture, perhaps. So in January of 2025, that average interest rate was 7.26. In April, let's call it, what I just presented for last week was 6.37, but let's call it 6.4. So on a home loan of 500,000, principal and interest only, that's a $286 a month savings. And then if you go back to February of this year, like I mentioned, we were been fluctuating in the very high fives or low sixes. So, if we get back to that range soon, that's a $419 a month difference on that same $500,000 home loan amount. So definitely still in a better position than where we were last year. And as long as we stay here or maybe even increase a little bit, we'll still see that home affordability index being a little bit lower overall versus where we were in 2025.
And I know we just had lunch today as a team, and we were discussing, yeah, mine and Derek's first house, we were at a 7.5%, and that was an adjustable rate. So, right, it's all relative, right?
Yep.
It's all
And as I
relative.
and as I mentioned, mine was seven all the way back in 2000. So it's very cyclical. And at the end of the day, we are still far under what the average mortgage rates have been over time. But yes,
Historically.
as we go back to 2020, 2021, 2022, we're up significantly over what they were then, which were absolute historic lows. But here we go, two people, both in real estate, who bought houses first homes more than 20 and 30 years ago, and we were in the sevens when we bought our first homes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why, when people are worried about the rates, I'm like, wow, yeah. And as Gary Keller always says, it's always a good time to get into the market regardless, right? Because real estate historically has always gone up. So, yeah, it's a smart time regardless, whenever you can get into the market to buy. So, super. Well, thank you so much to all those of you joining us. And if you have any real estate need that we can assist with, let's connect. You can always contact us at info@eveloteam.com or at our homebuyer seller hotline at 317-863-9011. And we'll have all that here posted below. But thank you so much for joining us. And thanks, Bob, always for bringing all the data so that we can share it with our clients and friends so that they can be most informed in their home buying and selling decisions. And as always, make each moment count. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.